All right, we're here with Grand Master Austin Wright Sr. from Universal Warrior Mixed Martial Arts in Bayonne, in Jersey City. If you don't know, I've known him for, 15 years now. I pitched him on social media marketing in 2011 before anybody even knew what social media marketing was. He was one of the first Social Baby clients. He holds a 10th Dan, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Universal Warrior Martial Arts, a 9th Dan in Judo Jiu-Jitsu, and an 8th Dan in Okinawa.
Now ninth.
Ninth. Look at that.
Ninth, yeah.
Got to update your website. And Okinawan Ishan Ryu Karate. Ishinryu. Excuse me. Sorry, Japan. I'm messing it up. Trained thousands in self-defense, law enforcement tactics, spiritual discipline, and he just released a new powerful guide book called Self-Defense Strategies 101. How you doing?
Great. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. All right, so let's start with the book. All right, it's a real-world survival guide that covers physical, verbal, and mental strategies to stay safe in today's dangerous world. So, why'd you write the book?
To be honest, the book was inspiring and encouraging by more of my upbringing and understanding that I work with a lot of kids in the educational system, in the private and the public school center for almost 30 years. I just retired as an educator. So I realized a lot of our kids don't know how to defend themselves. I realized a lot of kids verbally don't know how to defend themselves. They don't have any spirituality. They deal with anxiety on the regular. And they seem to be a little stressed out a lot of times, our teenagers and college students. And I want to try to give them something so they can have a fighting chance.
That's great. What is the one thing you see amongst the young that's prevalent? Like one, you know what I'm saying? What is that one constant that you're seeing amongst them that's causing this?
I think they tend to overthink. I think they tend to play a lot of games. I think the social media is so fast that their minds move so quick and they get bored very quickly.
Hence the reason for 6-minute videos nonstop over and over and over again, right?
Yes.
All right. When we were talking about, before you came on, you mentioned something. There was a coming up that I think is in the book or a part of the, reason, one of the reasons you wrote the book, or something that happened. There was a Communipaw incident. So you kind of put this kind of into real life situations, right? You got caught up in a situation.
Right.
Tell everybody what happened there with the Communipaw incident. What is it?
In terms of what?
Of how you kind of, well, you said right here, it's like, can you tell us what happened on the Communipaw? You confronted the group in the car. Something happened with some guys in the car.
Yeah, recently. So I was in a fender bender. So I happened to be just driving. This is not too long ago. On the Communipaw, and basically in Jersey City, and basically, I'm very well resourceful. I know the law, but this particular time, I had seen some guys, about 5 young guys in the car. You can see a lot of smoke coming out the car. They rolled the windows down. They were tinted, and they were in a rush to go somewhere. And they were behind me, and I could see, all right, I need to move and let these guys get past me because they're in a rush. So they kept beeping the horn, trying to get past me. Next thing you know, I felt a little nudge bump on my car.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I'm like, okay, let me pull over. Maybe I messed my back of my car up, the trunk. So I pull over and tell them to pull it over. Next thing you know, I see them shoot over the bridge. And they took off, no joke, doing about 90 miles an hour. And my old self-defense guy kicked in. I said, let me go get these guys' plates. So I start to follow him, and I'm calling 911, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yet the dispatcher saw me on the cameras, and
Crazy.
she said, don't chase after them, pull it over, because pretty soon you're going to be out of Jersey City jurisdiction. And I said, what? But I got to get the plates. And they were like, no, pull it over. By the time I pulled it over, I was across from the Kearney Prison Correctional Facility, and I was in Hackensack. Kearney, as you were, Kearney.
Yeah.
What I didn't know, now that dispatcher couldn't help me anymore because now I left the scene of an accident. And I'm saying to myself, but how was I going to get the license plate number? And if they messed up my car, how would I explain to insurance? And basically she said, you should have stayed there, and reported it, and then just let the law go from there and the insurance go from there. But my old self, honestly, just wanted to catch the guys and say, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But what do you say to 5 kids who are high in the car, or drunk, or maybe even a stolen vehicle?
True.
You know?
Yeah. enter into a situation
Yeah,
you
I
don't
could
want to
turn
be
it-
in.
and she basically told me because of my martial arts and this and that, or even just chasing them down, if I caused an accident, I could be sued. I would be in the wrong. So it's good to know the law and understand that it's best if you have a fenderman to pull it over and just wait for the police to come and do their job.
And that's something to talk about also with all the self-defense. And I mean, MMA and
Sure.
has really grown since we first met,
Absolutely.
right? Absolutely. And it's a last line of defense. You
Right.
you want, the whole point is to avoid confrontation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't want to cause a, but in that particular case, the law was broken. You were just trying to
Yeah.
protect yourself,
Right.
From, having to pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 and not have their insurance cover it.
On a Mercedes, because the Mercedes-Benz, they're high priced just to fix those items.
Yeah, and it really drives nuts.
Vehicles.
But it's amazing that you don't want to sound like your grandparents, and back in my day, everyone was nice. No, they weren't. They were never really that nice.
Right.
They are a little bit more brazen. What's different these days, though, is that a lot of people are doing it, for clicks, for views, for subscribers. Who knows? There's somebody's in the back of that car. They're like, oh, just bump it, then we'll take off, and then I'll get it on camera.
Right.
It's the reasoning that has really, and it's so prevalent right now. And being able to defend yourself, and which leads me to the next part of your book was you talk about kind of verbal jujitsu, right?
Right.
So in that particular case, if you were able to catch up with them, that would have been more of a verbal jujitsu type of situation. Hey, guys,
Absolutely.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Why didn't you pull over? I need your license, your insurance card, et cetera. But maybe they didn't have no insurance. Maybe they didn't have no license. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they, hit the road, Jack, as they say.
Yeah, they did, and they were off, right?
They're off, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a wild world, and to be able. Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If you reach up to these guys, right, they end up stopping. They come out and they want to confront you. And this happens all the time,
Right.
all over the world, all over, every day somebody does road rage or something.
Sure.
What does somebody do in that situation? Like where they probably shouldn't have taken it, but now we're in it.
Right.
And once you're in it, what happens?
Well, verbally, jujitsu is the first line of defense, diplomacy. However, if people are coming at you and showing you signs of war, you got to some way show them the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't sit there and be violated and punched at if you're trying to. But then again, the law would have probably turned on because I'm the one that pursued them, and it was what they called a minor misdemeanor. So I engaged them by chasing them as well. Even though they bumped me first, I engaged them by chasing them. So if they, things would have kicked off, I'm sure they wouldn't have went to court because they knew they were in the wrong and it was 5-on-1.
Yeah.
But police would have still been on the scene because we would have stopped traffic right in the middle of 1 and 9.
Jesus, that's
So
Jersey shit.
It would have been a bad scene. I've been in a few of those things in the past, and I have to tell you, I was one of the few people left standing, and God's been with me. So far so good. And in bar brawls and different things, 6-on-1, and I even got hit by a chair one time, cleared the bar, according to most people. The story's up that I knocked out like 20 people, but it was only like 5 or 6. But, it gets, every time I hear the story, it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it becomes folklore.
Yeah.
He fought all of New York City.
I said, that wasn't me. No, that didn't happen. And a few of them had a few cocktails in them. So
Always.
it wasn't a hard fight. You know what I mean?
Sure. You with your
But
expertise.
I was in my rights, and I tried to leave. I tried to walk out, but they closed the door on me. Like the bouncer even closed the door because he was with them. So that was a tough scene in a barroom brawl. But I'm a Christian, so I live a good life now.
Good
I turn
man.
my life around. But now I pray for people, not turn my back on anybody.
Sure.
I pray in the midst of the storm, and I hope I do the right things.
Amen. So the question: people, if they can go and take classes at your place, that's great, or anywhere for that matter.
Sure.
If someone doesn't have the money, the time, or whatever to go to a dojo and train and so forth, what's one skill that you would, say, hey, listen, you can do this on your own. You can learn one thing for those kind of instances where you don't see it coming, you're not starting it,
Right.
but problem comes to you.
Right.
What would you say? Just that one thing that you can kind of train on to learn to defend yourself.
First thing we teach what we call the pyramid stance, and that's just how to block things and defend, and not look like threatening. It's a non-threatening stance that I developed working in a psychiatric ward, working with special needs kids, because no matter what, when you're engaged, these kids start throwing punches, and
Yeah, that's it. It's on.
psychiatric people start attacking, and they start lunging, they start trying to bite, scratch. They become hostile and aggressive, and when you have to defend yourself no matter what. So I have a phrase: when it's on, it's on.
Yeah.
So when they're coming at you, you can't say, okay, let's talk about this for a little bit. No, you have to defend yourself and from the start. And that's what this book helps you with, some basic self-defense moves that will defend you from the start. I also have another book known as Universal Warrior Arts I wrote in 2011. And that book also gives you self-defense scenarios.
When we met, you
yourself.
were promoting that book.
Yes.
That's right.
When my kids call me a walking book, because you got to remember all these katas in martial arts, and you got to remember all these phrases and the codes of karate, the discipline. We say discipline and defense. You can't have one without the other. So, you have to be the director of your life to have purpose, and martial arts helps you to do that. If you're not the director, then I hate to say, you could be somebody's pawn. You know what I mean? Or you could be the guy or the girl who plays the victim in life, and you don't want to be the victim and tell that story all the time and how your world is terrible because you're the victim. My motto is shine, don't whine. You know what I mean?
I like that. That's
Shine,
good.
don't whine.
That's it, because nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
by the
cares.
end of the day.
That's crazy.
But I heard a good phrase not too long ago. If you don't change what you like, then you're choosing it. So if change is important, because if you decide, oh, I'm having a bad relationship, oh, I'm having a bad life, oh, so change it. Change it. Everybody says, oh, the devil made me do it. No, sometimes it's you. You are at fault, and you have to make changes in your life because, you have bad habits. You think wrong because, remember, you have to think about things. So your thoughts become action, your action becomes behavior, and your behavior becomes your lifestyle. So if you understand that, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he or she. So it's both, it's plural. But if you think good thoughts, good karma comes to you. However, if you're devious in your mind, you're smiling on the outside, saying one thing, but your mind is thinking another. You lack equilibrium. You're not balanced because now you're in conflict with truth. What's the thing of insanity? So people think they're always trying to get over. The definition of insanity is repeating the same pattern, expecting different results.
Yep.
And people think, even if they say positive things in their mouth, but in their mind they're thinking negative thoughts. It's a conflict with reality.
So that leads me here to one of the things you train is mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
What exactly? How does that show up in your classes? How do you
that's a great
impart
question.
that wisdom on people?
That's a great question. So basically, in the beginning of classes, the first thing we teach is respect. So I got to find out through respect, whether you're 5 years old or 35 years old, do you respect yourself? How do you treat your body? Are you nutritional? Are you drunk all the time? Are you getting high all the time? Where's your mindset? So that tells me a little bit about you when we start engaging about conversation and character. So, we call it chi, character, humility, and integrity.
There you go.
So if you understand chi, first thing you got to do is change yourself. If you choose to. We just talked about that because it's a choice. So some people say they want to change, but they go to martial arts. They do a great workout. They're learning, but they go home and guess what they're doing?
Right back
to the same thing.
Yep.
So something's got to give. So that's why, we talk about respect, and then that's the mind. So if you're the director of your mind, you have purpose. You're in charge of your life.
Yeah.
But if you're pleasing other people, you're doing what mom and dad want you to do when you're 40 years old, and you're not living your dream, or you're doing what your kids want you to do, and you're not living your dream, then you're just somebody else's pawn. But you don't even know it because you become an enabler at times,
Yeah.
So in martial arts, when we get them in there, we see some of these characteristic flaws, and we discuss them in a general thing because we don't want nobody to think it's pointed at them.
Sure.
We're not pointing the finger, but we're saying, do you want to change? So mind is the most important thing, because if you can control your mind, you can control your destiny, and that's where you have your purpose. So then in terms of the body, now we're talking about nutrition again. We're talking about exercise. We're talking about flexibility, reaction. See, I remember a kid just last week, new kid, street kid. So he came from behind and was ready to throw a punch, and I grabbed his hand, I swept him, and I took him down. He's like, "Whoa, I didn't do nothing. What am I?" I said, "That's a reflex. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that."
Yeah.
You know, he's 12 years old. But, you know, you can't play fight with someone who's got experience.
Sure.
Because if their reaction is real, boom, it's just going to happen because it's, you know, like second nature.
Sure.
You know?
That's how the body,
Yeah.
your mind is ready to
and
move.
the final one is spirit. You know, I'm a Christian, but that don't mean Buddhism is good, Taoism good. But I believe in the Holy Spirit, and I kind of believe that being a Christian, you know, you have to understand what the Holy Spirit is and what God's about. Because some people have told so many bad stories that people don't know what to believe anymore. So they're like, so what is the Holy Spirit? How did I? So I kind of explained. I heard a long time ago about a glove, and so you have a glove, for instance, and you have 5 fingers. But the glove is dead without the 5 fingers. So when you put your hand in the glove, it becomes useful, and now you have purpose with that glove. But if you don't put the hand in it, it's just a shell. So we kind of use that with the Holy Spirit. That if you're a vessel, it's good to have the Holy Spirit so you can have a little better purpose and a little better protection, you know, to maximize your God-given potential. But that's something you have to believe. It's a belief. So we teach Buddhism, we teach Zen philosophy. So we don't push any Christian agenda in martial arts.
Sure.
However, we teach the body. We believe in meditation, but that's prayer, right? We believe in Mushin, which means one-mindedness in the martial arts. And that's when you become one with yourself. But the biggest important thing is, as a man thinketh, so is he or she, like we were saying before. So you have to think those good thoughts, you know, and if you go to martial arts, you're changing your lifestyle, you're changing your nutrition, your mind, your body, spirit, but you're also being a little more flexible than you were before, because you might not have believed in anything, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, or you could have been agnostic, you could have been atheist, which is okay, but where is meditation going to lead you if you don't believe in a higher power?
Now, let me ask you a question. I've noticed culturally,
Right.
since COVID, 2020, that spirituality is actually on an uptick.
It is.
It is. Have
I
you
believe
seen
so.
that in the dojo?
I definitely have seen it in the dojo, and people are now feeling more comfortable in talking about
Right.
A God-given power. Talking about, I have Muslims in my dojo.
Sure.
I have Christians in my dojo. I have agnostics. I have a few atheists. But I just remind them we have the codes of karate. So the first one is train your mind, body, and like, you know, in and outside the dojo. But more importantly, a person's heart. This is the key here. A person's heart is the same as heaven and earth. So if your heart is good, you're going to do good things. In fact, this is one of my stories I tell my young kids at least once, 3 times a month. So kids have so much anxiety today that they don't know what to think. So they're overthinking, as you know. Adults do it on a regular.
Sure.
We overthink, and it leads us to anxiety, stress, whatever. So there's a great story that I read. In fact, it's in my book. I put it in there. It talks about the 2 wolves. And there was an old Apache Indian, you know, grandpa, and his grandson, who was probably about 12 years old. And he kept having these thoughts. However, he had good thoughts and he had bad thoughts. And
It's the worst.
it was a constant thing because he liked to be mischievous, but he had a good heart in a sense. But when he felt mischievous, even when he did something wrong, he felt convicted. He felt, inherently, I did this, I know it was wrong, why did I do it? But he kept making those mistakes. So he went to his grandfather and said, "Grandfather, I got a good wolf telling me in my head to do good things," because, you know, they use analogies of animals, you know, the old Apaches back in the day. "And I have a bad wolf who's telling me to do bad things. How do I know which one is going to win?" So the grandfather said, "The one you feed the most." So that is the key. Whichever you give more thought to, you know, it could be addictions. You know, I have a couple family members who grew up with addictions, and I realized they always suffered because they had those thoughts. It could have been drugs, it could have been alcohol, it could have been sex, it could have been 100 different things.
Yeah.
But it's an addiction, and it all goes back to one word: habit. So how do you break the habit? People, places, and things. You got to change that. Just like when you come to martial arts, you got to change people, places, and things, because you have to make your circle probably a little smaller. Or like you did, you go into to go by yourself, just to find yourself, to rediscover the source. Because becoming alone is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because you have to deal with stuff on you internally. We call it the inner warrior spirit. You know. So, you did a great thing because I've been there before several times,
Yeah, I mean, I was just, we were talking before you came on saying, during COVID, I moved out to the sticks, basically, of New Jersey because I was just fed up with humanity at
Right.
that point, all the craziness, the chaos, and destroying my business and so forth. And yeah, as a guy that was always, and what makes it harder sometimes too is that if your personality, if your character is an outgoing person, right, and then you look inward, that's even harder.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're reserved into yourself,
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
you have this way of projecting out to people. Then when you're in your quiet time, you're like, what do I do? Like the mind's always moving here, and then you start going into the devil and the angel type of situation.
Right.
Like, do this, do that, do this, do that, right? But there's something to be said to like just clear it all out, right? Get quiet. I mean, here's a crazy thing. I'm from Union City. You're from Jersey City.
Right.
When I moved out to Hackettstown, the first couple of weeks I was there, I couldn't sleep. Get this one, because it was so quiet. My brain was so trained to noise and sirens and hey you and shut up and F you out the window that when everything got literally quiet, I was nervous. Like, what's going on? Who's out there? Like, I couldn't tell. So it's a process. And I know you say kind of, you got to change places, things, and so forth and on like that. It's very hard for people to do that because you have a family, you have friends, you have this, right? So it's not like you're by yourself and every day you've got children you got to deal with and interact with them. So it kind of leads me to, speaking of children and going to the females, I'm going to go take it back into the self-defense world right now. And let's talk about like the training you've done with women, assaulted women, also training. Talk about your working with law enforcement and kind of helping these guys to really learn how to verbal jiu-jitsu and also physical jiu-jitsu, how to take people down in not such a violent, destructive way.
Yeah, I was a handle with care master instructor for the private school sector, and being that you have to work on first the verbal de-escalation. I think cops need to take I know they do, but a verbal de-escalation course because I talked to them about that, and they know theoretically what to do, but when you come on the scene, they psychology
adrenaline,
fight or flight. Adrenaline kicks in and they kind of freeze.
Yeah.
So they have to take charge of the situation immediately. And your words, hey, stop, don't move, calm down. Now, if someone's walking to you, they have to defend themselves. They have to say, hey, if you don't stop, I'm going to have to arrest you because we're not going to tolerate that. So you give people, a couple of verbal chances before they start walking to you. Now, if they walk to you without breaking a stride, or you say, put your hands behind your back, no, I didn't do anything wrong. You're going to run into those people that just don't know how to follow simple directions because in their heart, they believe they're right. But you're not right if the police officer is telling you to walk and you decide to stay there and argue and then curse them out and disrespectful. That's disrespect. That's why I would say the first thing we teach is what? Respect, and that's respect to the law. So going back to the self-defense, we teach them takedowns where they're not going to break anybody's arms. They're not going to choke them out and kill them. They're not going to use excessive force. Sometimes accidents do happen because I know I took teenagers down. I've taken adults down. And, they were never really hurt bad. But, sometimes you get a little bruise or something like that, but nothing major because I do it so much, so long.
Sure.
So for me, it's second nature. The police officers need to take these courses and do what we call refresher courses on a monthly basis because you can't take a self-defense course 6 weeks and then disappear for 20 years.
No.
And because it's like anything else. If you're not using it, you're losing it.
Sure.
I could be a basketball player, a football player. If I stop throwing the ball around, I don't have my skills. These young guys on the block is going to come and take me off the block.
Sure.
Even if I'm an NFL professional, even if I'm an NBA professional, I'm a black belt professional, but I have to stay in the game to win it. I have to hit the bag. I have to run. I have to be in the gym. I got a personal trainer too. So, sometimes we all, as we get older, we need a personal trainer, someone else to push us to maximize the pit. Because as we get older, what do we get? Little what? Lazy.
Lazy.
We get lazy.
Sure. Yeah.
But your self-defense question, the police are doing better now that they got the cams. They're not as great as they used to be, but their hands are a little tied as well because the law has changed tremendously. So the police officers trying to do their best. It's tough to be a police officer in today's world. I have to be honest. The years ago, we did see some excessive force. We did see some police But those are police officers, are exception to the rule. There's a lot of good police officers out there, and I trained a lot of them, so I know. And they don't want to hurt people, but sometimes, if you never had a street fight, and suddenly you're 35 years old, someone's coming at you with punches, you might know theoretically how to block, how to duck, but you freeze, you get hit, and then gun comes out, then or this comes out, and accidents happen.
Sure, it's dangerous work.
Yeah, it's so you can't, and people don't know the guns they have. They're light triggers. So when you hear this guy got shot 3 times, why did he only shoot once? Why did he shoot 3 times? Because sometimes that trigger is very light, and your adrenaline's flowing, like you say, and it's sometimes you do the right thing, but then some cops have good hearts and they do nothing, and what happens to them? They get shot, or they get assaulted, or they get put in the hospital because they're trying to talk a person down and they're not ready to engage and fight. So you have different scenarios, but I think if they learn martial arts with a good instructor, competent instructor, someone's come up in the streets like me. I came up in the housing. Nobody thought I was even going to be anything, because where I grew up, we had 5 brothers. We didn't have the greatest of financials.
Yeah.
And we did the best that we can. I went to college early. I went to Air Force for 8 years. So I even taught the military, which gave me a whole, a whole level of training, because I had to teach the Air Force, and I was considered the Air Force instructor. Martial arts. I had my own school on the Air Force base.
That's great.
It was great. So I taught not only the veterans, but I also taught their children. So, but understanding that, I've worked with law enforcement for years, veterans, and it all comes down to one thing: a good heart. So if your heart is good, you're going to do the right thing. But sometimes you have to defend yourself from the start. And that's what this book helps you out about, because it teaches you that even the law is important. We talk about mind, body, spirit, but it's moral, ethical, legal, very important legal. My entrepreneur, my group I call it my circle, includes lawyers, includes pastors, includes mentors in martial arts, includes resource people, in the educational system, principals, and these people are always around my circle, because at one point or another I do need them. So you have to also develop, not just for yourself, groups of people. You can go to a police officer for legal stuff that you might know, or your lawyer. Don't wait for it to hit the fan, so to speak.
Sure.
Be prepared, and defend yourself from the start. That's the key. Don't wait to be a victim. Be a victor.
No, and easy victims out on the streets, sad to say, are females, women.
Yes.
Right? They're just kind of weaker than men, and they can be overwhelmed easier. So for the women that are watching this right now, again, you had mentioned, I said, what's one thing that you could learn? But for a woman, it's a little bit different, because maybe takedowns are different. Where you grab, where you approach,
absolutely
bigger.
Yes,
what would you say to the women out there? Outside of taking a course at Mr. Wright's school, if they can afford it or whatever, what should they know when they're walking? I know the obvious stuff. Kind of always scan your area.
Right.
The best thing is always to prevent it. Right. I remember back in my nightlife days talking to bouncers, and they always told me, he's like, how you stop fights from happening in a club? At the door.
Right.
You stop it from the initial. Oh, those are bad people. You're never getting in here, and that'll cause it. Yeah. So I know that for women, that's the first thing. You see something that don't feel right, get out of the way. Outside of that, now you're caught up in it. They catch you off guard. What would you say to a woman? What can you do?
So I have an acronym. It's in the book. It's called PACE 911. Act 911. So basically, PACE means prevention, like you said. See it before it happens, awareness. A is assess the situation quickly. So if a guy is walking to you and he's following you, or walking behind you, got your keys in your car, keep your keys in your hand. Be ready to strike and then run to safety. Be ready to jab at the eyes, poke at the throat, knee or kick into the groin. So women just should be themselves. They hit the vital points is the key, because if they try to punch a guy in the chest, he's just going to get mad and grab and possibly body slam him. If they hit him in the throat, now they're doing damage. They hit him in the eyes, they're doing damage. The ears, the groin, going up under the groin, that type of strike, but with full force and with intention. See, the key word is intention.
Yeah.
I could throw a punch and it wouldn't do nothing if I didn't put intention behind it. So I have to put intention behind that. But the women today are very in shape. So I have to say, Women is not as weak as you think they are.
No, yeah, you're right.
They're in fantastic shape. They're in the gym every day. They're working out. So now I know they can do a lion claw heel strike to the nose and break someone's nose without a problem. I know they can take their nice maintenance nails and scratch somebody's eyes or hit their throat to get the flee to safety to call 911. So, you know, most people have their phone in their hand at all times. I don't like that because of social, you know, you're so distracted crossing the street. I've seen so many kids almost get hit by cars because they're distracted on their phones walking across the street. Now, why would you need the phone walking across the street? You know, you could take a break, but...
Addiction.
That's another way.
Another addiction.
But women today, even in the martial arts, they're... I'm doing this over 55 years.
Wow, God
so,
bless.
I'm teaching over, I would say, 45 years. So, you know, as a student, I realize women are very good in even sparring and fighting now because, and I tell you what, they do phenomenal. Kata, weapons, they're very serious. When you get a female competitor, she's serious, and some are more serious than men in terms of the kata, the weapons, and even the fighting. So you see a lot of women in BJJ now and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You see a lot of women in traditional judo. You see people in my style MMA that's mixed, or you do Ishinryu karate, because not everybody likes boxing, not everybody likes grappling, not everybody likes kicking and punching.
Sure.
So they got to find out what works for them and then use that to their advantage. But to conclude your answer, women are very powerful today, and I think they're smarter and more, you know, agile because they just have to not fight a man. At a man's, you have to take him into your game. Pretend, hey, I don't want to fight, and boom, hit him element of surprise. Because martial arts is about element of surprise.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not 6'6", you know, and what's good about that, that's an element of surprise for me. Being 5'6", you're able to look at people and say, oh, he's not a big guy, you know, and then they'll come to you and they put their guard down and they don't know my background. So that's my element of surprise. I can take a 6'6" guy down, no problem. I'd rather not, but if you put your hands on me, it's going down. You know, it's about to go down. So, you know, and my goal, like I said, I'll pray right in the midst before I do anything, and then I'll try to talk my way out, like I said, verbal jiu-jitsu. But if you're gonna start throwing punches, the talking's over. You have to defend yourself. And I tell people, if you can't fight or you've never been in a fight, run. I'd rather see you run. There's nothing wrong with running. And call 911 because you don't know if that guy got a knife, a gun, or 4 other guys sitting on the corner waiting for him to join in and attack you. You really don't know.
It's funny. I grew up here. I went to school in Jersey City.
Okay.
I had this innate instinct, you know, back in the early 90s or going to high school. You know, you get jumped for your jacket. This was a thing.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
I heard that. Mm-hmm.
What I was good at was knowing from like 2 blocks away and able to eye down people.
Oh, right.
And I would start going, and my friends would look at me and go, where the hell are you going? I go, and then I go, look behind you. And they look behind them, and they're starting to run at them. I go, go ahead. So it's an instinct thing. Some people have it, some people don't.
Intuition is another key thing that we teach in the martial arts, because you got to be intuitive. Not everybody's street smart anymore.
No.
You know, I grew up in the housing projects, and I watched drug addicts in the hall, junkies in the hall. You got to crawl over them, get up the stairs sometimes. It's sad, but I never judge them. I still give people money on the street. I still buy them.
Oh,
food,
yeah, no.
You know, because we don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they
Well, I think a lot of people, they do have that instinct sometimes, but societal pressures of, you know, they're black, they're Spanish, they're this, they're that. They don't want to feel like they're like, you know. But let me tell you, if you're down on Communipaw at 2 a.m, right? Like if you're from where we're from, and that instinct I have has been across the board. It has been white people, black people, Spanish people. They've all come after me, right? And I've always gotten the jump on them because coming up, I'm 5 like you. I'm 5'3". I weigh 130 pounds wet. Right. I ain't fighting nobody. It just isn't what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
and
saying?
No shame in that.
No shame in that, man.
That's smart. That's your instinct.
Yeah. You
I'm
know.
sure you always want to do martial arts, but probably you didn't have the time or the finances. Who knows back in the day?
Correct.
You know?
And it was, well, can I be honest with you? It wasn't really a cultural thing. Now it is. Like with the MMA, I've watched it grow and become so popular. You know, when we met in 2011, it was around, obviously, but it was not like it is now. It is massive. And talk to that for a second. How has the popularity of MMA affected your business?
You know what? I had to. We always did. I'm gonna say my father was an American who's a pioneer of American kickboxing. He was Ishinru guy. He did judo jiu-jitsu before he even did Ishinru karate. So he was kind of like a Bruce Lee, the art of fighting without fighting, or be like water. He wanted to put everything together. Of course, his traditionalist owner of the school did not like that. So he would always like undermine him and say, we're not doing that MMA here, mixed martial art. We're a traditional Ishinru school. Kickboxing, you're not doing that either. We don't getting people knocked out in here. I'll lose all my students. But there is a knack for that in society because people are very angry today. People have issues and they like to get them off their chest. So martial arts, contact martial arts can become a venue to not take your aggression on people, but to let the stress out.
Sure.
With controlled aggression, legal aggression, moral, because it's competition.
Sure.
But if you get knocked out, you signed a waiver, you wanted to do that, and nobody's mad at you.
Yeah.
So nobody thinks about the long term. But going back to that, it initially would have hurt my business. See, I adapt to environments, to circumstances. So because I'm quick at adapting, even like COVID, I was fortunate enough to be an educator and put myself on the TV and Zoom and have my clients, 20 clients, on a big screen TV that I bought. And that's what helped me pay my rent. But I was still an educator, so I was getting some income coming in, thank God. But that between that and COVID and being adapting to social media, I had to come out because I'm old school. I still like to read a bank statement with a paper. I still prefer to pay you with a check than go online. I'm old school, man. I'm telling you. But it works for me. It works for me until it don't.
Yeah, exactly.
It don't. But going back to MMA almost affected my business because people didn't want to do kata. They didn't want to weapons. They didn't want to learn the codes. They just wanted left jab, right cross,
grapple
down,
and all that.
And grapple. But we're still not a grapple-friendly school because I know one thing for a fact. In a street fight, you go and try it on the ground. You try to get an arm bar for 2 minutes. Guys are hitting you with a chair, kicking you, hitting you with a beer bottle, whatever. So that doesn't work for street. And I know Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was more about self-defense originally, and now it became a grappler's game and things like that. But it's great if people love it. I mean, I implore it. But we're going to stick to traditions, our school, and what works, and more self-defense. That's where we're going. Our future is going to. It's going to self-defense. We're great in the point karate game. We're great in the kickboxing game. My son was a great jiu-jitsu international champion. My daughter was a female international champion. I'm a international world grand champion. We won many gold medals.
How are they doing, by the way? I remember when we first met, they were young. They were younger.
Yeah, and my kids are doing fantastic. My daughter just had a baby, my grandfather.
God bless.
So she's doing great. She got a business with her husband, so they're in the trucking business. My son works for Viola. Water, he's guy who, if the water needs a break or he fixes those things. So everybody's got their own house. They're blessed, but they all go back to their martial arts training. Especially my daughter, she'll say, "Dad, now I understand why you're so hard on me." Because I used to tease her. I said, "Priscilla, you can do this, but life is pain. Get used to it." She's like, "What? What do you mean pain?" and I said,
I want to be happy.
Yeah. Because but I had to give her the reality of life early because now she's geared for it. She's wired for it because she knows her purpose. Once you know your purpose, you're wired for it. So each of my kids, even though I wanted them to continue the legacy, my daughter created her own kickboxing logo, powerhouse logo. She does the kickboxing part of it. All that stuff for ladies. My son, he's great with it. He likes the grappling a little more. Mm-hmm. He was a wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy, so he likes that more. But he's great in kick and punch game. But, as he gets older, he's doing other things, like he's a salsero. He's still
really?
Yeah, he loves the salsa. Everybody's got their own. I have another son. They're all black belts, by the way.
Don't mess with this family, by the way. Don't mess with it. You see them walking down the block, walk the other way.
His name is Gabriel, and he's a historian, so he likes school. He's a 4.0 GPA, and a little lower to this year, but he keeps his grades up there. He's a gamer, so that's tough dealing with that new aspect and I call myself an OG like me, Yeah. So we're not, I'm not a gamer at all. He'll ask me to play, I try, he kills me, and I was like, I don't have time for this.
That's
but
crazy.
he spends a lot of time on the games, and I don't judge him, because what? I don't have to worry about being on the street. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He's got a good heart.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got a good heart. Better than I was when I was a kid. But you know what it is? I realize the new kids today talking about him, social interaction skills, so important. So he's got them with me, but he was a little shy coming up compared to my other kids. But now he's fine. But, you know, you got to get kids out there social interacting in the public. You got to send them to the store by themselves independent. You got to, you know, let them do things by themselves when they're 5 and up. You know, simple things, taking out the garbage, helping with the dishes, making beds. You know, one thing the military taught me, the first thing I do in the morning is make my bed. Something as simple as that.
Is that crazy?
Yeah,
There's a
it's
book. There's a
stuck with me.
book about that. It's named that, like Make Your Bed. And my father was in the military too. I'm the same way. I can't leave the house without doing it. It's something like you have to just get it done.
Yeah, it's a
silly,
discipline.
stupid.
Yeah.
The rest of the room could be a mess, but the bed's made. As long as that works.
Yeah.
Well, it was great speaking with you. Tell everybody, where can they find the book?
So you can go on Amazon and get the book. It's called Self-Defense Strategies 101, In Harm's Way, Mind, Body, Spirit, and Soul. You know, I didn't talk about the soul too much today, but I believe that we all have a soul, and I believe that one day, you know, we're going to be atoned for us, you know, everything that we did. But I also believe, I don't believe in the big word sin. I believe we make mistakes. I believe that we have to capitalize on mistakes and learn from them. That's what mistakes are there for. You know, you can grow up and you do something that you know, we're talking about the two wolves, that was a wrong thing, but the good wolf convicted you. Hey, then just change it. You know, work on it. Don't play the victim. Don't blame everybody else. Just take responsibility for yourself. And that's what this book helps you do. It even gives you resources, talks about people in prison, and how our Hispanic and black community is the highest incarcerated in the world. And we have so many black Americans, Hispanics, are incarcerated for minor things like now marijuana, that are sitting in jail for marijuana and now it's legal.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that. And that really hurts my soul when I see people locked up. And I have to tell you, people don't think some of these might have had ADHD and they weren't diagnosed early.
Sure.
Or they might have been addicted at the time. So why didn't they put them in a program? I help people too in the street. You know, if they don't have a lawyer, I try to find a lawyer that'll give them a good price. And realize if you don't have resources, people sitting in the jail cell because family members don't know, kids are embarrassed to call them and say, hey, I did something wrong, could you get me out? And then some people are addicted, so family members are tired, you know, they're tired.
Sure.
So it talks about addiction in here, it talks about imprisonment, a lot of different things that in the book, but this is a go-to guide, this works for you, and it teaches you to be the director of your own life, be prepared for life, and it even helps you in the workforce, corporate America, you know, because there's a lot of wise phrases in here. For instance, we have a thing from the book called The Art of War. I'm sure everybody heard that.
Sure, Sun Tzu.
And the wise the ignorant fight to win, while the wise win before they fight.
That's right.
So the wise win before they fight is the exact phrase, while the ignorant fight to win. So that's pretty much what that's about. And if you are a thinker, not an overthinker, you prepare your life for situations, and you have your circle of people, your entrepreneur group that can help you in them circumstances, whether you made a mistake or you just want to learn something and go to a new avenue, like, you know, open your own business.
Yeah.
I think that's important. People are afraid today to open their own business. They're afraid to take risks. You have to take risk in life too.
And I want to show you something, guys. I know people they're very busy, and I can't look at that. All that knowledge and information. What's this take? An hour, 2 hours? A long trip to the bathroom.
It's less than a cocktail online.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well worth
it's
it.
less than a cocktail online, or definitely a pair of sneakers, as you know.
This man understands the market.
So,
you are, you may be 5'6", but you are a giant in the community. You have done so much for the community, and I really appreciate you coming down here.
Appreciate you
Thank
inviting
you
me
so
down.
much. Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure.
I think this is a good thing for entrepreneurs. So anybody who wants to come down and do this, I highly recommend you do it here. It's called Big Mouth Productions or
Big Mouth Studio.
Studio, okay. Big Mouth Studio, and it's an experience. I think you can grow from this. And the best part of what he told me about, which really sold me, is I could use some of the clips and put them on my social media to help market my product. my style, and also just give back to the community. And that's what life's all about, finding your purpose and giving back to the community.
Amen.
But we always put God first. Remember, God above all. That's my motto, okay? And thank you for allowing me to come here.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Again, thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. That was great.
Yeah, something different, man.
It was a great conversation. It went about 45 minutes.